In 2022, a man named Devon Larratt tore Devon Larratt's bicep during a match in Dubai. Devon lost 6-0 on camera in front of the world. And then later he tattooed, Devon was here, directly on the tear site. Pretty cool. But he didn't do it to remember the pain.
I wouldn't expect you to keep your word and put me in Istanbul. It would be too much to expect from you.
He did it to honor the master of the moment. My name is Robert, and I'm stupid, not the kind that shrinks you. The kind Devon Larratt has been practicing his entire career. The kind that takes 6-0 loss on camera in front of the world and turns it into the most important lesson you've ever learned. This is a business video. Before I tell you the business thesis, I need to show you exactly who we're talking about. Because Devon Larratt is not a motivational poster. He's not a highlight reel. He is a full, complicated, funny, terrifying, warm human being. And if you don't know that about him, this lesson isn't going to land right. So let me introduce him properly.
If that was me, you would have called a foul. Everybody knows a flop. Everybody knows that. Why do you hate me, Bart? Why do you hate me?
I'm really good at this. Oh, that's better than I normally do.
There you go, 46.3.
How much was it?
46.
That's not nice. That's not nice.
Big Leonidas. And he is your winner, 132.8 kilos. He beats everyone in the room.
Sorry, Devon. I'm impressed, okay? Let's see what you can do to that with that tomorrow.
Kannst du ihn verstehen? Näher an.
Very good.
Näher an. Komm, oh nein, gar nichts, gar nichts. Alles gut? Ja, wo geht's? Wo geht's? Wo geht's? Wo geht's? Wo geht's? Wo geht's? Nimm die nicht weg, die das ist doch auch für mich. Weißt du, das wird auch in Deutschland. Meine Mutter. Meine Mutter war von Schwarzland. Ich habe überlegt, verarbeitet, verantwortlich war da.
Yeah, we've been pulling for like 3 hours now, so pretty warmed up.
What do you want to do? You want me to move or is it good?
It's perfect.
5 pancakes.
5 pancakes.
2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, he's eating pancakes. He's trying to get big. Let's see. How does he do? How does he do? There. Okay.
9, 23.
So when does he finish?
9, 15. In his mouth at 20.
9:20.
I'm not quite there.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
I think I am going to give the last one to Milo.
Yeah,
the
good
6th
idea.
one.
Yeah.
I'll just finish the 5 and we'll call it a day.
Yeah, yeah, that's smart. Even 5 is a lot. And you're just use A as much as a 250, 255 pound world champion.
Yeah.
Who's got 10 years on you.
Exactly. I'll take it. I'll take it.
And I think you probably beat him on time.
Pretty sure I will.
So look it, for me to get to pull this guy, for me as an arm wrestler who loves the sport and loves these challenges, what an incredible test. I will probably on my cane and in my wheelchair, you know, when I'm having a bad day, I'm gonna put it on YouTube and I'm gonna watch it, you know, whatever happens. Yeah, I just wanna make sure I get that before I'm already in a cane and wheelchair, you know?
This man, this 6'1", 280-pound special forces operator who can hold your arm down against your will, has an ongoing thing about pancakes and maple syrup. He mails championship trophies to the people who beat him. He trains a son in the garage in Ottawa and posts it on the internet like it's a completely normal thing, while both of them could probably dismantle most people they've ever met. He took a boxing match against the world's strongest man, Halfor Bjornsson, 6'9", 330 pounds, with 5 weeks notice and 0 boxing experience. No training camp, no preparation. Just Devon deciding that abandoning his area of expertise is an opportunity to grow as a human being. Maybe he saw the Everest video, link up above. He got knocked out in round 1. Okay, he just started. And here's what makes him extraordinary for our purposes. Devon Larratt does not have a success story. He has a practice. And understanding the difference between those two things is the entire point of this video. So in this video, I'd like to introduce the first stupid sutra. You don't need an idea, you need an obsession. The dojo is wherever it takes you. The stupid sutra is something I'm going to pause at a few points in this video to compress what we're seeing to something you can actually carry with you. Ancient wisdom format, modern problem. You're going to see more of these. This is the first one, and it's about Devon's grandmother. Devon Larratt's first arm wrestling teacher was a farm worker from Alberta. She had no credentials, no training, no methodology, no lineage to pass down. She had a kitchen table and a claim, delivered with the kind of absolute, unquestionable grandmother confidence that no one on earth would ever think to challenge. That she was the best arm wrestling woman in Alberta. Devon was 5, maybe 6 years old. She would arm wrestle him at the kitchen table as a reward for picking apples. Now here's what most people do with that origin story. They call it wholesome, they call it cute part before the real story starts, but that is the real story, because Devon never, at any point in the 40 years that follow, decided that some teachers were too informal to learn from, that some environments were too unglamorous to train in, that some classrooms didn't count because they didn't have the right name above the door or they didn't pay enough for that semester. Oil fields, Afghan military bases, his own garage in Ottawa, a kitchen table in Alberta when he was 5 years old. He built the world's greatest arm wrestling education out of whatever was in front of him. In martial arts, there's a concept, the portable dojo. The idea that the practice goes wherever the practitioner goes, that the mat doesn't make the fighter, the obsession does. In business, we call it something different. We call it, I'm not ready yet. We call it, I need the right environment, the right resources, the right mentor, the right moment before I can begin. Devon's grandmother didn't wait for the right environment. She put her elbow on the kitchen table and taught a 5-year-old what strength was something you practice, not something you wait to receive. You don't need the perfect setup. You just need an obsession. The dojo is wherever you are. So let's build on that. I want to talk to you about a cognitive bias that is quietly destroying your business, and that Devon Larratt accidentally cracks open every time he does something that looks insane. Researchers at the University of Oxford gave expert chess players a problem that had just 2 solutions. A familiar one they've seen before, and a better one that they hadn't. The experts almost always went with the familiar solution. Here's the part that should really bother you. Even when they were told there was a better solution and they were asked to find it, even if they were actively looking, the experts continued fixating on features of the board that were related to the familiar solution. Their own expertise was controlling their attention without their permission. Being an expert actually reduced their problem-solving ability to 3 standard deviations below comparable players. 3 standard deviations. Your expertise, the thing that you spent years building, can make you measurably, scientifically dumber when it comes to problem that requires something new. Every founder I've ever talked with who has ever felt stuck knows this feeling, even if they don't have a name for it. You keep doing the things that used to work. You keep applying the frameworks that made you successful in year 1 to the problem that you're facing now in year 4. You're not being lazy, you're just being the expert. And your expertise is the cage. At 46 years old, the world's greatest arm wrestler stepped into the boxing ring against the world's strongest man. 5 weeks notice, 0 boxing experience. He got knocked out in round 1. When asked why he did it, Devon said, Abandoning my area of expertise is an opportunity to grow as a human being. He didn't say it to be inspirational. He meant it literally, stepping outside the domain where he was an expert, putting himself in a room of professional fighters where he knew absolutely nothing. This was the antidote to the Einstellung effect. In arm wrestling culture, they have a term for what Devon does that I really love. They call it going stupid. It's full commitment to a move, even knowing it might break you, even knowing the odds, all the way in, cost be damned. But here's what I think going stupid actually means at a neurological level. When you commit to fully not knowing, when you walk into a room as a genuine beginner rather than a disguised expert, you reset the cognitive bias. You can't apply the familiar solution because there is no familiar solution. Your attention is free again. Going stupid doesn't make you less intelligent. It makes your intelligence available again. The stupid sutra number 2, your expertise is an asset until the problem changes. Then it's a blindfold. Now I want to talk about something I call the white belt reset. Devon had surgery on both elbows. The doctors looked at him and delivered the verdict that every high performer dreads, not because of what it says about his ability, but because of what it says about identity. You're done. 2 years maximum. You won't be champion again. I want you to sit with that for a second. We've all heard stories like this, and it never feels good, because I think most of us know in some corner of ourselves what it feels like when the thing that defines you gets taken away, when the identity you've spent years building suddenly has an expiration date. And the natural response, the human response, is to protect what's left, to guard the expertise, to stay in the lane that's still safe, even if it's getting smaller. Devon did the opposite. He switched hands. Devon became the first person in history of the sport to win the world championship on both arms. The "you're done" became a door. Not because Devon has superhuman resilience, not because he's built different from the rest of us, because he understood something that most people only understand in theory. The white belt reset isn't giving up. It's the most aggressive move available. When was the last time you deliberately made yourself a beginner? Not accidentally, not because something was taken away, deliberately, because you recognize that your expertise has become your ceiling. Most founders I talk to haven't shipped anything new in years, not because they don't have ideas, because their identity is now wrapped up being the person who knows, and being a beginner feels like a confession that they don't know. Devon's surgery forced him to take the white belt reset. The question for you is, what would it take for you to actually choose it? And that choice is tied to something that I've actually never heard someone name before. We talk about perfectionism, we talk about imposter syndrome, and I'm going to talk about that a lot more in an upcoming video. We talk about the fear of failure, but there's a specific trap underneath all those, and I think it's actually doing most of the damage. It looks virtuous from the outside, which is why nobody calls it what it is. I call it the moral purity spiral. And here's how it works. You start with a reasonable standard. I want this to be good before I ship it. Fair, responsible, correct. But then something happens. The standard gets slightly higher. And when you meet that standard, it gets higher again. And meeting new standards feels, and this is the key, it feels righteous. It feels like integrity. It feels like you're the kind of person who doesn't cut corners. And every time you raise the bar, you feel more justified, more principled, more serious. Meanwhile, nothing ships. The moral purity spiral is what happens when the act of not shipping becomes evidence of your character. I care too much to release something that isn't ready. I have standards. Other people settle. I don't settle. I'm protecting my audience from something that isn't my best work. All of those sentences can be true. They can also be the most sophisticated procrastination mechanism your brain has ever invented. Devon Larratt walked into a boxing ring with 5 weeks' notice against a man who is 8 inches taller, 90 pounds heavier, and has been training to fight his whole life. That was not a morally pure decision. I'm 100% confident Devon doesn't know the words moral purity spiral, but he knows the principle intuitively. He refused to wait until he was ready, and he got out of the expert cage to get that experience now. and he took a chance. He shipped. He got knocked out. The lesson cost him a round, and his being willing to go outside of the box has made him one of the most popular sports figures on the internet in a sport that isn't necessarily one of the most popular, although he's helping it grow.
Here with some maple syrup.
Cheers, Lex.
Cheers. We should probably show. You just down that whole thing.
No. I'm gonna sip it. But by all means, it's
That
really
is
good,
delicious.
right?
Yeah.
That is
Canadian maple syrup.
And dude, I'm telling you, he has the biggest hands I've ever experienced in my life. Like, they don't even make any sense. Like, maybe Shaq has bigger hands, like longer, but this dude's hands were like catcher's mitts. They were so big. Like, you're shaking his hand, you're like, I guess I'm kind of shaking your hand. I'm just putting my hand out there into the abyss of what your hand is.
What's your moral purity spiral costing you? What side of you gets lost when you only talk about doing something? I want to show you a side of Devon that I think gets lost when people only talk about the championships and the special forces background. Devon Larratt is genuinely, openly, publicly vulnerable. And I mean that in the most specific way possible. Not the performed vulnerability that you see on stages where people tell their hard story that ends with triumph. I mean the kind where you're still in the middle of it when you turn the camera on. In early 2021, Devon Larratt was diagnosed with deep vein thrombosis, blood clots that traveled into his lungs. He documented the recovery publicly. You can still see the videos.
My whole life I've been a little bit of a pyromaniac. Every time things seem to be going good, I sometimes try and find a way to burn it down. My good friend, Mike Gould, he's got like 35 or 50 national titles or something like that. Anyways, I can't have Michael always being the guy who gets something and I don't get it. So I've spent the last couple days in the hospital, unfortunately. And if I had plans with you, sometime over the next couple weeks or the next few months, I may have, by accident, burned them down temporarily. Not to say they won't grow back better than ever before, but I may have unfortunately put them on hold temporarily.
Because that's who Devon is. He doesn't turn off the camera when things get hard. Less than 5 months after his DVT diagnosis, Devon swept Michael Todd at King of the Table in Dubai. Michael Todd, a world champion, said afterwards that in 2021, Devon was the strongest arm wrestler he'd ever faced. Blood clots to a 5-0 sweep in 5 months. In December 2021, the King of the Table announced Devon's next match, Levon. Devon was a heavy underdog going in, and when they finally met in Dubai in June of 2022, Levon won 6-0. Early in the match, Devon suffered a bicep injury, and any small hope he had disappeared with it. He passed the legacy hammer, this big, huge hammer, to the man who destroyed him on camera.
One of the great things is I wanted to make sure that this was in the right hands, and I knew long ago that it was a possibility, not just a possibility, but very likely, that this hammer belongs in Georgia, with the King of Georgia, with the King of Strength in the arm wrestling world, Levon Saginashvili. Thank you for letting me be part of your legacy.
I keep coming back to this image, not because it's gracious. Lots of people are gracious in defeat, because of what it would actually take to mean it when you say it. That level of peace with a public loss doesn't come from positive thinking. It doesn't come from reframing or mindset work or any of those things we usually are recommended in these videos. It comes from 40 years of going stupid on every teacher who showed up. His grandmother, Berzank, the surgeon, the blood clots. Every single thing that tried to stop Devon Larratt became curriculum. And when Levon showed up, the most complete opponent he'd ever faced, a man he genuinely might never beat, Devon knew exactly what to do. He took the lesson, he marked it on his arm in the coolest way possible, and he kept going. When the World Arm Wrestling League collapsed in 2017, 2 physical trophies were left behind, championship hammers modeled after Thor's Mjolnir that had symbolized being the best of the sport. Devon Larratt was holding both of them. He could have kept them. The institution that created them was gone. Nobody would have said anything. Instead, Devon unilaterally decided to perpetuate the tradition, to declare that the hammers belonged not to any league or organization, but to whoever was currently the best in the world. And when you lost, you mailed that hammer to the person that beat you, one of the coolest traditions in sports. He mailed his own championships to the man who took them both from him. The inscription on the legacy hammer reads, "Legacy. The idea is not to live forever, but to create something that will."
All right, so right here, the legacy hammer. So I'll talk a little bit about this beauty. Oh, does this ever feel good to be home? Yeah. Ooh, it's back. I love what Michael did to it. Legacy. The idea is not to live forever, but to create something that will. So awesome. So awesome.
Devon's son, Andrew, now competes at the highest level. Devon opened his Ottawa garage gym to anyone who wanted to train. He teaches techniques on YouTube rather than guarding it. He mails trophies to the people who beat him. In business, we call this culture. Devon just calls it what it is. If you want something real, something that actually matters, you should be willing to hand it to the person who earned it. The legacy hammer doesn't belong to Devon Larratt. It belongs to whoever is currently doing the hardest work. And speaking of hard work, that brings us to Stupid Sutra number 3. Failure is the most expensive teacher on earth. It charges tuition in time and pain. Whether you extract the lesson or waste the cost is entirely on you. Most people watching this video are stuck. Not stuck like broken. Not stuck like hopeless. Stuck like someone who has been almost ready for long enough that almost ready has started to feel like personality. You have the framework. You've read the books. You know what to do. And somewhere between knowing and closing, there's a gap that no amount of content has managed to close. Here's what I think that gap actually is. You've been treating your losses as verdicts instead of data. The project that failed is the evidence that you're not a real entrepreneur. The pitch that went sideways is evidence you're not a real communicator. The thing you shipped that nobody cared about is evidence that you were right to be afraid. None of that is true. And some part of you knows it isn't. But the moral purity spiral keeps spinning. The Einstein effect keeps pointing you toward the familiar solution. And the white belt reset keeps feeling like failure instead of the most aggressive move available. Devon Larratt explicitly pushes back against romanticizing failure. He told a room of soldiers, "There's something wrong with the Western culture's romanticizing failure. It takes too much time to get back from it." And he's right. It's stupid to plan to fail, because failure, when it comes for you, is the most expensive teacher on earth. And whether you extract the lesson or waste the cost is entirely your choice. Devon extracted every lesson. He paid for the tuition and took the class. He tattooed the loss on his arm, not to remember the pain, to honor the master of the moment. You don't need the perfect mentor in your life. You don't need someone to tap you on the shoulder and tell you you're ready. You don't need the conditions to be right, or the timing to be clean, or the moral purity spiral to stop before you take the hill. You just need to go stupid on whatever's already in front of you. The closed door is an opportunity. The failed launch is a data point. And the only question is whether you contract or expand when it arrives. The mentorship you've been waiting for is already here. It's in every loss you haven't debriefed, the door you closed and called bad luck, Every version of yourself you put in storage because the conditions weren't right. You don't need an idea, you need an obsession. As Grant Cardone says, be obsessed or be average. The dojo is wherever it takes you. My name is Robert, and I am stupid. And I hope if Devon Larratt actually watches this video somehow, that he knows someone is paying attention. He knows someone is taking the lessons that he's demonstrating and passing them along to a business audience of high achievers. Own your stupid. Rewrite your story. Subscribe, leave a comment below if this video affected you. I want to know. I want to know your story. I want to know what lessons I can learn from you. I want to build community. I want you to be part of it. Newsletter link is below, and I'm excited to see you in the next video.
The thing is, we're friends.
No, we're not.
We've been around.
We're not friends. Shut up.
Tomorrow night.
I'm gonna kill you.
Tomorrow night.
I'm gonna kill you, Michael.
We'll be violent.
You remember that we're friends when you're dead on the ground.
We'll
he was
be
my
violent.
friend.